Good evening. That was a week. Good evening. I want to thank everyone for coming here this evening. It's a very important night of remembrance. We just observed Kristallnacht. We just observed Kristallnacht. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Right. And I think one of the important ideas, just to frame this evening, is the Torah tells us, Moshe Rabbeinu at the very end of his life, when he talks about remembering what Amalek did, and really the evil that was oftentimes brought upon the Jewish people throughout generations, he says, Zachor, remember, and then the Torah says, Al Tishkach, do not forget. And many of the commentators wonder, if you're going to remember, why is there a mandate not to forget? So the Ger Rebbe explains, Zachor is to remember the past. But Lo Tishkach is to think about the lessons of the past so we actually create a better world. And that's really what tonight is all about. We're blessed to have with us Emil Fish. His wife Esther is here too. They should live and be well. Who is a Holocaust survivor from a small town in Slovakia. You'll learn about his journey soon. His father was sent to the Buchenwald concentration camp, and he survived, and his mother and sister were sent to the Bergen Belsen concentration camp. In 1945, his mother and sister were liberated from Bergen Belsen by the British Army, and his family immigrated to Los Angeles. He's the founder of Emil Fish Enterprises and Regency Park Senior Living, served as the president of Congregation Shirei Tefillah, the Hillel Hebrew Academy, and the Union of Orthodox Congregations in the West Coast. In 2006, he founded the Bardejov Jewish Preservation Committee, and its mission is to preserve and document the Jewish heritage in Bardejov and to memorialize and honor its Holocaust victims. In 2009, Mr. Fish was appointed by President Obama to the United States Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad, on which he still serves. He currently resides in Los Angeles and Philadelphia at the same time. Among his many...
And Riverdale.
And Riverdale, 3. He and Esther are the proud parents of 3 children and 12 grandchildren. Emil would not be here if not for a wonderful friend and partner, member of our community, Dr. Shay Pilnik, who is the founding director of the Emil and Jenny Fish Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Yeshiva University, and a Stamford resident with his family since 2020. His most recent book was published by Purdue University Press, The Ravine of Memory, Babi Yar, Between the Holocaust and the Great Patriotic War. I want to thank you for not only your friendship, but for really enabling us to be here this evening. I want to thank our partnering organizations, Young Israel of Stamford, Bicultural Hebrew Academy, and Temple Beth-El. This is really a wonderful showing of the importance of Midor Lador, from one generation to the next, to be present, to testify, and it's really an honor to have you tonight engaging in this very important conversation. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Pilnik and Emil Fish.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Cohen. I also wanted to recognize, can you hear me?
Yes.
With an echo. Okay. I used to be a radio technician, so I know a little bit about echo. Is that better? Let's see how we do. Can we maybe do...
That's perfect.
And keep the mic with Emil. Okay. I am not yet 90 and a half. Give him some credit. He'll need the mic. So it's my utmost pleasure to introduce you to Emil Fish. First of all, thank you to all the partners, to Rabbi Bernstein and Rabbi Cohen and Rabbi Kohl and Rabbi Knopf. The rabbi mentioned the partnering organizations. Thank you, Esther, Emil's wife, for coming and being with us tonight. And thank you, Emil Fish. It's actually my pleasure. He and I have been doing these programs all over the world. Remember, we spoke in Kigali, Rwanda, and in Dubai, and in odd places as much as Ra'anana, Israel. Where else? But this is my home community. I'm actually pleased to see so many familiar places and places that are less familiar. I'm so pleased to also see young people here. Emil Fish is a Holocaust survivor, but he's also a remarkable man. a remarkable human being. I remember when I first met you, people told me that you have a smile, a twinkle in your eyes and a smile that never goes away. You are one of the most optimistic people that I've ever met, but you're also a Holocaust survivor. So we'll talk today about your life, about your thoughts. I would actually like to cut to the chase and ask you, what does never again mean to you?
Never again.
And then we'll talk about your life.
Well, first of all, thanks for the compliment.
Okay.
And I wish my mother, she rest in peace, would have heard that. She would be very proud of it. I don't know if it's true, but she would have been proud of it. So the question is, why?
What is never again for you?
Well, I thought when I was younger and I was growing up and went to college and so on, I thought that never again is a reality. There's no way it can happen again. Of course, going to Africa with China and all places in the world, what I've seen people being killed for no reason after the war, I don't believe anymore. Never again is here, especially now. So I changed my mind, and never again can happen. And what we have to do is to make sure it doesn't happen. And that's exactly what was the problem in Germany, because the German Jews didn't think that anything could happen. They were intellectual, they were part of the society, and they could never imagine that what happened. So the only message I can give you is we have to do something to prevent it.
Okay, we will talk about never again now and anti-Semitism towards the end, but now I would like to go all the way back and ask you about your childhood. I've been to his hometown Bardejov multiple times. This is something that I actually don't do for a living, but Emil also has a non-profit organization that preserves all the Jewish institutions in his town of Bardejov. So tell us a little bit about Bardejov in Slovakia and about your childhood.
Okay, I was born in 1935 into a very Hasidic family. I'm sort of descendant of Bnei Yisachar. I don't know if anybody knows. There are a lot of Gnai Nohara Hasidus, but I grew up in a very, very Hasidic family. And I remember my grandfather, should rest in peace, who passed away in Auschwitz, with a long beard and just like you see pictures of. Except my father grew up Hasidic, but he went to his grandfather, my grandfather, his father, he says, listen, I made up my mind. He was about 18, 19, 20. He said, I don't want to be poor, because most of the people in our hometown were poor. I've made up my mind that I don't want to be poor, and I want to have a profession. And the only school that would allow Yeshiva Bucharam to study was Breuer in Frankfurt. He tolerated people at night taking bookkeeping classes, and he pretended that he doesn't know about it, but he did. So he decided as a Chosed son to go to Breuer. And my grandfather said, if you go to Breuer, I'm going to sit Shiva. Of course, he didn't sit Shiva. He threatened him. My father did not, told him, I just don't want to be poor. So he went to Germany, studied yeshiva, became a Talmud Chacham in Breuer's yeshiva, in spite of everything. And he came back as a bookkeeper, as an Orthodox Hasidic man that's a professional bookkeeper. And nobody believed him. Anyway, he spoke German with no accent. It helped him to save our life during the war. And that's how, and then this was in 1935 when I was born. So I had a childhood in a cheder till about 1941, 42, when the Slovak and Hitler made an agreement that they're going to fight together. And the only two countries who did not have German occupation was Italy, Mussolini, and Tiso, Hitler. But Tiso was a big anti-Semite.
So tell us a little bit about Slovakia. When the war breaks out, when does the war start in Slovakia?
Well, before the war was started, Hitler started in 38, Poland 37, but he did not occupy Slovakia. But Tiso was a big anti-Semite. He was a priest. He was the president of Slovakia, and Hitler, his organization, demanded that he should send 100 young girls to work in a shoe factory in Poland, but it was really, we found out that they were going to go to Auschwitz. So the first they demanded 100 young girls, unmarried, to be taken from my hometown, from Slovakia, to a shoe factory which was really to Auschwitz. And that's the first time that I started to realize at the age of 6 or 7 what anti-Semitism is. And Mr. Lowy in my hometown did not like the idea, because 300 of these girls were assigned from our hometown, and he outsmarted the Germans, and the girls were not sent to Auschwitz, although they made it up later at the same time from other towns. And I won't tell you the story because I made a movie, Bardejov, and if you can go on Streamline and get it.
So Emil, we'll talk about your movie.
So that's the story of the first transport of Auschwitz. There's about 999 girls from Slovakia.
Yeah, let's get it straight. You said 100, but I think you meant 1,000 or 999.
No, 1,000. They demanded 1,000 girls, of which 300 were supposed to come from our town. And he outsmarted the Germans, and he did not. I can't tell you how, otherwise I give away the plot of the movie. I'm not going to do that.
Doesn't want to do a spoiler. So Emil, for you as a child, the Nazis demand that the Slovaks are Nazi collaborators. They demand that they supply them with Jews, but then at some point it comes to a halt. No more deportations until when?
Well, in 1942, there were 3,000 Jews in our town, Bardejov. Not Bardejov, but Bardejov. And 80% of the Jews were taken to concentration camp in 1942. It was one of the first organized camps, and about 80% never came back. This is and that's the first time that I was 6 years old. I really started to realize what's going on. The problem that I had is that I knew from very young when it's going on, because I don't want to show off because it sounds stupid, but I remember everything from the age of 2, 3.
I believe that. Yeah.
And so
He
I
has a good
remember
memory.
almost everything that was going on. But in 1942, 80% of the 3,000 Jews were taken to concentration camp, and 80% never made it.
So Emil, after 1942, the Jewish community of your town shrinks to 20%, and you are, and your family, they are among that 20%.
Okay.
And what happens then?
What happened is, so you want me to describe what happened between, right. So
Please.
in 42, 20% of 3,600 Jews, the Slovakian government needed businessmen, so they called exemption. So 20% of the Jews were exempt, and there were nothing happened till 44. So we lived, of 3,000 Jews, about 600 Jews left with the anti-Semitic regime, but they were not sent to concentration camp or any place. We couldn't go to parks, we couldn't go to schools, we couldn't do anything, but we had enough eat and business. a little bit. And then in 44, the rest of the 20% of 600 Jews were told to go west to Bratislava, and everybody knew for the purpose there should be one place to Bratislava or some town close by to be sent to concentration camp, but most of them went to forests. They got Aryan papers to hide, and they tried to save themselves. So out of the 20% of 600 Jews, about half, most of them, one way or another, survived, and some of them were taken to concentration camp in 1940, end of 44.
Now, Emil, if I remember, in 1944 there is a revolution in Slovakia, and the Nazis invade Slovakia, right?
Right. The partisans created a revolution against the Germans mostly in a town called Banska Bystrica. They failed. They literally failed. The revolution failed, and the Germans didn't trust the Slovakians anymore, even though they were partners, and they occupied Slovakia, and they took the rest of us, the people who they caught, to concentration camp in the middle and the end of 1944. My parents and my mother, my sister, and my father had Aryan papers as Christian till we were caught by Gestapo at the end of 44, and they sent us, my mother and my sister, to Bergen Belsen, and my father in Buchenwald.
So until you were caught in 1944, the Nazis invade and you have to hide. Your family is in hiding?
We were not hiding. We had Christian papers, and we were walking around as Christians. And we were caught. And the way we were caught is somebody turned us in, saying that there are Jews hiding, and the Gestapo came at midnight and picked us up and sent us to Seret, a temporary place, and then to Germany.
Now I remember that your father was also a remarkable man, and he was very creative in his hiding. There's a story that I remember you shared with me once.
Well, there are a lot of
about the
stories.
conversation he had with the Nazis. If you don't want to,
What?
if you don't mind sharing the conversation he had with the Nazis.
Okay, so we were hiding in a little village, and we took a train to Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia, and we were dressed properly. We had Aryan paper, Christian paper, so we had to look good, and we were very hungry. We just got off the train, and we went to a restaurant to eat. And at that time, there weren't that many restaurants. Every table was occupied, except one table was empty with a German officer, high officer, sitting by himself. And if you remember, I told you he spoke German almost with no accent, and he told us not to talk. Not to talk. He told us, my mother and my sister, keep quiet. He sat down at the table, he got up, put his boots together, told the officer, "Hi, Hitler." And the officer did the same thing, got up from like in the movies you see, got up from the chair, put his boots together, and answered him, "Hi, Hitler." And my father said, "I don't like you." And he said, "Why not?" Hitler and Tiso made a pact that you are not going to occupy Slovakia. We Slovaks don't like you. We don't like occupation. We know what to do with Jews. We know what to do with communists. We know what to do with everybody. Why are you guys here? Just explain to me, why are you guys here? The German officer was so angry, he got up, said, "Hi, Hitler." My father got up, said, "Hi, Hitler," and he left.
You saw all that,
That's
right?
one story. What I'm trying to tell you is in short that whoever you meet, a survivor, they have their own stories. You did not survive by not doing unusual things that are unbelievable. That's how every survivor survived. He had to be special, and that's how he survived.
And that's actually when your survival story begins, but then it continues to Bergen Belsen. So your father is deported to Buchenwald, and you are in Bergen Belsen, if I remember, as an 8, 9-year-old. What do you remember from Bergen Belsen? What was Bergen Belsen?
Well, as I told you, I remember everything from the age of 2 or 3. And we came at night, and there were so many trains that were supposed to go to Auschwitz that the train master said, you guys can't come to Auschwitz, I don't have enough railing, so tell them, take you train someplace else. So they took us to Bergen Belsen. And there were so many of us coming at night, and as you see in the movies, dogs barking, lights. They didn't know what to do with us because they were told, make it fast, unload fast, because another train is coming. So they took us to a barrack, and we were treated to a bed and all that, and that's where we stayed from about September till April. We were in concentration camp with no food. Bergen Belsen, most of the people died from typhus, from sicknesses. There was not enough water, there was not enough food, there was nothing. It was just people were literally dying on the street, and there were thousands of people. I don't know if you saw a picture of Bergen Belsen. There were thousands of corpses just dying, and most of us died.
You were okay?
Survived.
Your sister almost died, right?
My sister had typhus, and the minute you had somebody typhus, you had to leave the block, because otherwise you gave it to somebody else. So you basically went to what they call a Totenkammer, dying room.
The infirmary.
Infirmary, and she doesn't know why, but some Polish woman told her, let's get out of here at night, because we're going to die anyway in the morning in 2-3 days. So my sister said, wait a minute, where are we going to go? There's no place to go. So they went anyway, and my sister and her hid under a truck, and she woke up in the morning, and the woman wasn't there. And she was by herself, and she got up, and she was walking half naked, and somebody recognized her and gave her a nightgown, a torn nightgown, and she found her placed back to the barrack, and you can imagine my mother's excitement when she saw her, and there were so many people dying that Germans didn't pay attention to us, so nobody bothered us. It's unbelievable that you can imagine that. The Germans didn't bother us, they didn't give us any food, water, and people were just dying. And Auschwitz, and we somehow, my mother was very innovative, and she volunteered to bring the food from the kitchen, and she got sick, but she got an extra piece of bread, and that's how she survived her 2 kids, me and my sister. And everybody had to do something special to survive, otherwise you just died.
Emil Liberation, I remember you told me that your father said, if we survive the war, we should meet in Bardejov. How did you meet? How did your family reunite? Tell us a little bit about the post-war.
Okay, the post-war was very simple. It's history. The Polish people did not want to go back to Poland. And that's why you had these camps after the war, because they wouldn't go back to Poland and nobody wanted to take them, so they created DP camps, mostly Polish. The Slovakian, after the war, was a democracy, a very successful democracy, and Czechoslovakia was always friendly to Czechs mostly, but always friendly to Israel. So most of the Czech people, there weren't that many, a few thousand, came back to Czechoslovakia, and they were very successful. Actually, they were too successful. Actually, I don't even know, but most ammunition and the rifles in 48 came from Czechoslovakia. And we had Moshavot, we were a big democracy. Till 1948, the communists took over, and all the Jews left most of the Jews left to Czechoslovakia, to Israel, to Hungary, to other places, wherever they could, Canada and South America, Cuba.
And you and your parents don't go to the same place after the war, right? You and your parents split.
My mother, what happened is nobody knew who is alive, who is dead. So they had these lists on the walls. The Red Cross, the Joint, the Jewish organization published lists, who is alive and who is dead. And half of them were wrong, obviously, you know. It was just somebody said, and my mother got a telegram that my father is dead, which was normal. I mean, it wasn't like, of course he's dead. It was in Buchenwald, of course. Except about a week later, he showed up.
I never heard
Just
that.
like that.
I never heard that story.
He just showed up in our town, Bardejov, and that is the story of our family.
But I meant, Emil, that after the war, you moved to Israel.
Well, between 45 and 48, the Israeli Yeshuv, which is the people in Israel, Ben Gurion and Bnei Akiva and Mizrahi, knew there's going to be a state. They didn't know when. And therefore they sent shlichim to Europe to bring the kids to Israel. They wanted the kids to come to Israel. So Shomer HaTzair, Bnei Akiva had madrichim, and we were big Zionists. We didn't care about anything else except to go to Israel. And we were very happy. And then 48, the communists came. I told my father, I'm going to Israel. And he said, well, you're going to wait till I go too in a year or two. And I said, no, I'm not waiting at all. I'm going by myself. And I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of us who went to Israel by ourselves. So in 49, I came to Israel with Bnei Akiva. I was in the school for 2.5 years. And my parents, meantime, went to Canada. Since I was underage, they demanded that they should come home. And most people don't know, but there's an international law, even the commons in China honor that a child belongs to the parents, and if there's a child someplace and the parents want them, they're going to ship them to the parents. That's why you never see stories about children in newspapers, but it happens every day. And so I came back to Canada, and then we came to Los Angeles.
Tell us a little bit about life in Los Angeles. What did you do for a living? What did you study?
In Los Angeles, a lot of my cousins, and we had a big family, and they were big Zionists. Los Angeles, I went to college, and I became an engineer, which is nothing unusual, and we were just big Zionists. And the only thing that interests us is children, Jewish people, and the state of Israel. And Los Angeles is known for that, selling bonds and all kinds of things. And I went to School of Engineering. I got a degree from USC. And then I worked 1 year as an engineer for Beth-El, which is the biggest company in the world, construction company, and then I didn't like it, and I went in business, and I became active in the Jewish community.
Tell us a little bit about your family. Your family, you want to say a couple of words about your family? I have a couple more questions before we wrap it up.
I had my cousins and there were a lot of us in the family because they were very successful, and everybody came to Los Angeles. And at that time, you know, it was just, I lived the American dream. That's the truth. I married and had children, 3 children, Orthodox children in Hollywood, which is a story by itself. And Los Angeles Judaism was very good to us. I don't know what else I can tell you. I went in business and was successful, thanks God, and was very active in Jewish affairs. And
Emil, you put your memories of the Holocaust aside for many years. And then at one point you go back to your hometown Bardejov. That was maybe like 15 years ago.
okay,
And you make a pledge. That was an interesting
here's what
encounter.
happened. My kids grew up, of course, and I think one was married already, and they said, we don't understand you, Father. I said, what is it that you don't understand? Everybody goes to Europe on a heritage tour, and you never take us. And that's not fair. And I said, why it's not fair? I'll go to Germany, give me a plane with no bottom, and I'll throw some bombs, and I'll land in England, and I'll be very happy. And one of them said, well, you have enough money, go buy me a plane. Anyway, they convinced me to go to my hometown. They convinced me against my wish. And when I came to the hometown, and usually it was very standard, everybody did it. You took a taxi, unless you were from Prague or Bratislava, you took a taxi to your town, you show your children and your wife where you lived, and you show them the synagogue, and you leave. And now this is what it is called, used to be the primitive heritage tour.
That's what my grandma did with me.
Yeah. Everybody
Your story
did.
is very unusual, I have to say.
One day, and you took a taxi to a bigger town, so you can have a hotel. And so I did the same thing. Except I have no idea how, when I came to my hometown with the taxi, the guy who was supposed to wait for me, there was only one Jew, he passed away 6 months before, and the guy said, the mayor wants to see you. I said, mayor wants to see me? How does he know I came? I have no idea. I was told to bring you to the mayor. So he delivered me to the mayor. And remember, I was a homeboy from the town. So the mayor was trying to show off, and I said, don't show off. I've been to the city hall before you came. And I thought, so stop it. And I told him stories about the city hall, because when you go to college, to high school, they take you to the city hall, they tell you stories. So he was shocked, and we became very good friends, still are. And I told him, Mayor, listen, I really feel sorry, I enjoy your company, but I gotta go and show at that time only one of the children came, my wife and my son, and we went to see the places where I grew up, which is the synagogues, the high school, the mikveh, whatever. And when I came to the suburbia, which was made up of 3 buildings, the shul, and the mikveh, and the Beis HaMedrash, the yeshiva, and it was occupied by a Home Depot store.
Was all filled of toilets, right?
What?
It was all filled with toilets, you told me.
Right. So
Sinks
I
and
said,
toilets.
I couldn't get in, even though I made an arrangement. The guy didn't keep his word. I came back next year, and I went to the synagogue, and he opened the door for me, and there was used toilets on the floor there, in the big shul that I prayed. So, I was very angry. Then I went to the cheder, and I couldn't get in there. I went to another shul. I got in there. I broke in, and I was very angry at the world. And I was standing facing my cheder, where I went since I was 3 years old. And I looked at the town, and I said, Hitler took the Jews, but they're not going to take my heritage. They killed everybody, but they're not going to kill. And I committed myself. I made a neder that I'm going to bring heritage back to the town, and I've been doing that since then. It's that simple. And I was just angry, and some of you I'm sure know that neder is a very serious thing in Chumash, and I didn't even try to go back, and I tried to restore the physical aspects of the town. Wasn't easy, but after 20 years, I did what I was supposed to do.
And I will say briefly that if you go to Bardejov today, all these buildings have been restored. Award-winning architects. He's now building a museum. He got a grant by the Slovak government to build a museum there. And he keeps telling me that in 5 years, Bardejov is going to be second only to Krakow. Or maybe Krakow, you said, would be second to Bardejov.
The mayor asked me in one of the meetings, he said, so what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. People, if you want to know how people died, they're going to go to Auschwitz. And then they're going to come to Bardejov to see how they lived. And he got up and he said, no, you got it all wrong. They're going to go to Bardejov first, then they're going to go to Auschwitz.
Wow.
The mayor said, I said, okay, I'll go for that. So we're trying to preserve the heritage. We can't bring the Jews back because we don't want to bring them back. But I don't want the kids to forget where they came from. And it started with my own kids. I wanted to see that we have a heritage, and that's what I'm doing in the town. So, so far, so good.
Emil, this is your first philanthropic venture, and the second one is the Fish Center for Holocaust Studies at Yeshiva University. We even have a couple of students who came here from town, from out of town, and the question is why?
Okay.
Why do you believe in Holocaust education?
Well, here's what actually happened. My grandson went to high school, Yeshiva University High School, and I went to his graduation. In Beth-El, am I saying correctly?
In Belfer Hall,
Belfer Hall.
at Yeshiva University.
University, and they were late starting the program. So there was about 20 minutes, I had nothing else to do, so I started reading the signs of all the schools the Yeshiva University has. That's all. I just started reading them. And I realized there is no Holocaust school. There is no Holocaust school. I said, I don't understand that, how a Jewish university doesn't have a Holocaust school. And that's it. And then it kept bothering me till Berman showed up in town, Los Angeles, to a funeral.
The president of YU, Rabbi Berman.
And I told him, Rabbi Berman, I don't understand. Why don't you have a school for Holocaust? You have everything else, and you don't have it. And he said, funny you should mention that. Somebody else on the board brought it up last week, he said. I said, okay, I'll come and see you, and we'll establish a school, and that's how the school got established. Yeah.
Thank you. I know that it was your initiative. I also know that things in this country, at least when I think about when I started to teach about the Holocaust, were much calmer. We're now a week after the election of an anti-Semitic mayor right next door in New York City. There's clear signs that anti-Semitism is growing unchecked in the country. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, I'm not a politician, so I can't tell you, but I can tell you one thing, that I have no problem with the world. They're telling me that Israel is strong, and they criticize me. I have no problem with it. I'd rather be told that I'm strong and mean than weak and be killed. So I don't know what America has a problem with that, but I don't have a problem with it, you know? I want to be on the winning side. Why should I be on the losing side? So, you know, so the question is?
Your thoughts about the world we live in.
I just gave it. I have no problem with it at all, you know? And
are you scared?
What?
Are you scared about anti-Semitism?
No, I am not scared because I think I don't have an opinion about Trump, but I think Mashiach is here, you know, partially. I mean, He let us do whatever we want to do. And we're strong. So finally, we're strong. So if you guys have any problem with it, that's your personal problem. I have no problem with it.
Emil, I want to end with a personal question. So a couple of things remarkable about this man. I met so many Holocaust survivors, and true, they take their children and grandchildren to the towns to show them where they grew up. But he's the only one who have the philanthropic and construction background. And he said, no, we're going to rebuild it, which is remarkable. Second, Emil is laser focused about the future. When I call Emil, he hardly ever says, how are you, Shay? He always says, what's going on? Oh, Shay, what's happening? Tell me what's happening. You always look for the future. And at the age of 89, he made a feature film all by himself. He pulled it off. He found a director. You were even participating in the shooting. So tell us a little bit about the film. And I remember you told me that making a film is something that changed your life.
Well, what happened is I wanted to tell the story how Lowy, that's his name.
Rabbi Lowy. Yeah.
Rabbi Lowy. He wasn't a rabbi, he was a businessman.
Oh,
sorry.
Dr. Lowy.
And he did not want to send the girls with a transport to Auschwitz. And he came up with the idea. And the idea is written in every encyclopedia, usually a paragraph. There are a lot of stories of people who are heroes. So in Warsaw Ghetto, every place, there were people, believe it or not, who sacrificed. And he said he's not going to allow his children, women, girls, not married between 16 and 18 to leave town to go to Auschwitz. And you have to see the movie, how he did it. And so it was written every place, but nobody ever made a movie. So I was on a plane going to Los Angeles, and there was a guy who wanted to talk to me, but I like to read on the plane. Nobody bothers you, and so he wants to talk to me, and I'm just reading, and we're getting our luggage, and he looks like a Hollywood guy with weird dressed. And he said, I wanted to talk to you the whole time. I said, I know, but I wanted to read. So we're getting our luggage, and I asked him, what do? You look weird to me.
He's very weird indeed, yeah.
And he said, I'm a director. You're a director. I want to make a Holocaust movie. But I don't have any money for a movie. Although my family is in the movie business in a big way. Not my family, but cousins. But they are not interested in making movies because there's no money in it. I said, I want to make a movie that I can afford. And he said, you know what? As we're going down the steps, I always wanted to make a Holocaust movie. I said, good, give me your phone number, I'll call you. And I did. About 2 months, 3 months later, I called him up. I said, you want to make a movie? And then I checked him out, and he was a legitimate director. And so I said, okay, we'll get together. And he said, you know what? I'm going to make the movie for you. I'm not going to charge for myself. And I have in Tel Aviv, I have a company all over that I'm going to make a movie. He's not a... And I said, Danny, fine. And I make all the arrangements, and my kids think they got the Hollywood bug, which is I spend my money making movies. And my son is a businessman. He said, Dad, you lost it. You really lost it. And I said, what do you mean? He says, you're going to make a movie? I said, listen, the producer is legitimate, the director is legitimate and all that, and let me go and see the producer, because the producer is the one who put the little pieces together, you know? And I was hoping that the producer is legitimate. So I took a flight just to see the producer come back, And I came to Tel Aviv, and the producer is the biggest producer in Israel. And he's going to make the movie. He's not going to make it, but he's putting the pieces together. And everybody gave me a discount. Literally, I mean it, you know. And I called my son. I said, "You wouldn't believe it. This is legitimate."
And Emil, if I have to say, I saw the movie multiple times. Making it at the age of 89, pulling it off, and with the budget you had, it's remarkable, and you have to watch it. Emil, I have a few more questions about what you're planning to do for the next 29 years. You're going to be 91 soon, but we're running out of time, and I want to allow also some time for Q&A. So if there's any questions in the audience,
I want to bring back the heritage that we have lost. And it's very tough because we Orthodox people, I shouldn't say it, we're not too active in the Holocaust. That's just a fact of life. Okay.
David.
Yeah, I think another important thing that you've done, Emil, is change the people of Bardejov that are living there now. Because you didn't talk at all, I think you talked about the commemoration ceremony that they do at your synagogue every year.
Well, you want to be here the whole evening? Okay, so first, I didn't talk about a lot of things because of time. I had absolutely no success the first 3-4 years to do what I wanted to do, and the reason for that is it's very complicated. It's really, really, really complicated. The properties were given back to the Jews of the country. So, for example, the properties of Slovakia, Jewish properties, were given back to the Jewish committees. Right? That sounds good, correct?
But
right?
there are no Jews.
But there are no Jews. Why? Because after the Jews left the countries, the girls left the countries. The girls don't want to marry non-Jews. It's a fact of whatever, why. The boys don't care to marry shiksas. So all the Jewish boys have Jewish names are married to non-Jews. And they control the properties in Eastern Europe, but they have no feeling for Judaism. Nobody talks about it, and Eisenstadt, who was the president, who was the assistant to the president, and he just made a bad deal to get money, and he wrote a book, and he just terrible. But the properties, the Jewish properties, are in the hands of Jewish names, but they're really not Jews.
What teenagers in Bardejov know about the Holocaust is thanks to this man. There is no doubt. We have time for a couple more questions. Harvey. No.
I just want to understand something historically. You talk about Slovakia, but before the war, there wasn't a distinction between Czech and Slovakia as one country?
No. After the First World War, Czechoslovakia was established with Masaryk as the president, which was very, very successful, more successful than America. That's a terrible statement to say, because you can't imagine that. The cars were more advanced, and there was a factory, Skoda, who was more advanced. Okay, but then Hitler came in 1939 and split Czechoslovakia from Slovakia.
So why is it that my parents who were survivors always spoke so highly of the Czechs being incredibly democratic and also very supportive of the Jews and President Beneš, when the Slovaks were the other side? Why the difference?
Because they're two different cultures. The Slovaks are poor and farmers, and the Czechs are have factories, and they have a similar language, but they have different philosophies of life. Till today. Yeah, today the same thing. The Czech support Israel, the Slovaks are anti-Semites.
No filters. Yes, sir.
Can you describe what Israel was like in the 1940s when you went there? That's the first question. And
It
second,
was very exciting. I tell you why it was exciting.
You get one question.
I give you two examples, and you'll enjoy that. The first one, I was there when Israel got to have 1 million people. That was a big thing. You can imagine, 1950, 51, it was unbelievable. There were 1 million Jews together. There was a milestone, and Ben Gurion and everybody was excited. That's one thing. The other thing is a story, which is a true story. They came to Ben Gurion, the head of the police, and said, "You don't know what happened. There was a killing. A Jew killed a Jew." And Ben Gurion said, "Mazel tov." We were like everybody else.
We're normal. Yes.
We're normal. We're a state. So I can tell you stories all day long, you know.
Emil, a couple more questions I saw. Yes.
So my parents were survivors also. My father from Poland, my mother from Lithuania. And in our house, like my father spoke 5 languages, my mother spoke 4 languages, but in the house it was Yiddish. Was your house a Yiddish-speaking house?
Absolutely. My first language is Yiddish. I still speak Yiddish. And yeah, it was Yiddish, of course. In a Hasidic house, that's what they talk is Yiddish. And
you still have your father's shtreimel, right?
oh yeah, after the war, my father found absolutely nothing from the grandfather in his home, except he found the shtreimel. So I have my grandfather's shtreimel.
Oh, it's your grandfather.
We have Orthodox, modern, you know, the OU kind of a Yeshiva University, but I have my grandfather's shtreimel.
Eitan.
yes, I lived in Los Angeles for 12 or 13 years, and something I noticed living in Los Angeles is that Jews in Los Angeles are more outspoken, they're more bold, they're more proud. You have Pico Robertson, you have miles of shops and stores and markets where there's Hebrew writing in the storefronts. And being from New York, I noticed this, and it kind of made me wonder, why don't we have this in New York?
What year did you live in Los
I
Angeles?
lived in LA 2 separate times, from 04 to 2010, and then from 15 to about 21, 22.
Where did you live? Where?
I lived first in West LA by Olympic and Pico and Robertson. Then I lived in Studio City, and then I lived in Toluca Lake.
Emil, it's an interview with you, not with him. get to the answer.
All right.
So, but I've noticed.
But I think it has to do with the weather, with easy to real estate was expanding, and people had more money than on the East Coast, so they built schools and schools, and they were just a happier bunch. They were not as educated as the East Coast. I shouldn't say that. Anybody here from the West Coast? They paid more attention to living good than to everything else.
Emil.
Big houses, big houses. It was just
Where in LA do you live?
Hancock Park.
Hancock Park. Yes, beautiful.
Emil, we actually have to wrap up, but we have a question from our student
Yeah.
who is a teacher. And Emil believes that our students should be educators who completed a certificate and is now teaching a whole unit on the Holocaust here in Stamford, and that's Darren Bahar. So he deserves the shout out. Darren.
Thank you so much for the support that you give all the people that are part of the program. I'm just curious, what's the secret to your energy? It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
I think everyone in this room would like to have half the
You
energy.
want to know the truth?
Yeah, I want to know this.
I hate funerals.
On this note, I would like to thank you all. He will stick around if you have more questions. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you.